I've spoken to like friends, like kids of friends of mine who are like 12 years old, and then like the skinniest jean hipster in the entire world, and like moms and grandparents, and everybody, no matter what their music taste, seems to love this new record. I've never come across anything quite like it in Canadian music.
Wow, thank you.
How does it feel to be so universally loved right now? How does it feel to have that record achieve that kind of worldwide success?
I mean, it's overwhelming, and it feels wonderful. I definitely let this be my passion project for the last 2.5, almost 3 years, and I was in my little bubble of making music, and that's it. So you never know what the reception's going to be, and it meant a lot to me that the writing community especially embraced it.
Because you were already well known. I mean, to some people, you could have done "Call Me Maybe" and then never done anything else for the rest of your life, and still, lived in a pool full of jaguars.
I
But
considered that.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it was the kind of hit, that really went everywhere. It was instantly recognizable, one of the biggest hits of all time. But I want to go back just a little bit. I definitely want to talk about the new record, but I can only imagine to have that kind of success come out of really nowhere. So back to 2011, what was it like to have that song blow up so fast?
Well, I mean, it's so interesting kind of how you look at nowhere, because for me it had been 10
Yeah,
years of
yeah, yeah.
grinding and trying things and
I remember you on
writing
Canadian
songs.
Idol. I
Yes,
remember that.
exactly.
Yeah.
But essentially, when that song did kind of pick up, it was like wildfire. And it was the most exciting and exhilarating thing that had ever happened to me, and my band, who are still my band today.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I think that the only way I could describe it is sort of like feeling like Alice in Wonderland. I moved to Los Angeles and I was newly famous, and it was such a strange new reality. But I felt like it was also the best opportunity to finally write with some of these dream producers on my list, and take on some other countries than just Canada.
And you definitely did do Canadian Idol. I definitely cheered for you on
Thank
Canadian. I
you.
definitely did. But was there a moment, and you described it as being like an Alice in Wonderland. Was there a moment you knew that things were going to change? Was there a moment you knew that you had kind of passed through the mirror? Was there one moment you can think of that said, "Oh my God, this is much bigger than I thought it was going to be"?
I think I think when the covers started coming in for that song,
The covers.
different celebrities would do covers. I think Justin Bieber started it off, of course, with Selena, and then James Franco did a cover, and then Katy Perry did a cover. And I think I knew I really made it when the Cookie Monster had done his own cover. I was like, this is something else. No, but I think there was just there were moments throughout the whole journey where we were looking around at each other, me and the bandmates, remembering when we had played at just sort of like Piccadilly pubs and little
Yeah.
theaters, touring in soccer mom vans and painting up our own posters. And we'd be on Ellen, and the curtain was about to kind of draw up, and we'd be looking at each other being like, this is so cool and crazy. And we still feel that appreciation for it today.
I mean, what I can't get over is most people who have that kind of success that you've had, especially in such a, I mean, I don't want to say that it was immediate. You're right, it did take a lot of work, but it was certainly sudden in a lot of
Yeah,
different ways.
definitely
But
was.
we were speaking before the interview started, and I was speaking to some of your team. You seem incredibly grounded. You seem like a very normal person for someone who's had all this success.
Oh, thank you.
What's the trick? Like, how do you stay so grounded?
Well, I think I'm totally human. I have moments where I'm very tired, and I
Yeah.
have moments when I'm totally able to just appreciate what's going on. But I think whenever I have those moments where it kind of feels overwhelming and the workload gets crazy, I go back to remembering the 26 years leading up to kind of my big break, and how lucky I really am. And I think that gratitude, and even having kind of fame hit me later on in life rather than really early on, was a gift in a
That's
way.
interesting. So you're kind of happy it happened a little bit later than, say, if you had been 16 or 17.
I don't think I personally could have handled it. I think lots of people can, but for me, I think it was important to kind of enjoy the struggle and the bohemian lifestyle of living in Vancouver and keeping 3 minimum wage jobs and trying to like make a little sort of writing community. I think a lot of even my artistry was developed in those years, and it was really crucial for the musician that I've turned out to be.
So the song comes out, and I mean, it's a bit of a blessing, and it's a bit of a curse and a blessing at the same time. You release the song, "Call Me Maybe," it becomes this gigantic hit, and then there wasn't necessarily a second single that was as big as that song. Did that worry you? I mean, were you worried about being positioned as a one-hit wonder?
I'm lucky in the fact that I've never really invested too much in the sales of something for
Right.
it being big. I mean, This Kiss was probably equally one of my favorite songs, and I've kind of had to let go of the responsibility or the control over what happens at radio. But you're right, with Call Me Maybe kind of taking off, there was that moment where we're like, yeah, it's working. Yeah, it's working. Okay, stop working. Okay, stop. And then it was such a huge, ginormous thing that and it really overshadowed the rest of our project. But in a way, I can look at that and see that it also was a bit of an opportunity to take a step back, go back into the studio and really make a change with what I wanted this next album to be, knowing that that break would be healthy for many reasons.
But the taking a step back wasn't just going back into the studio. I mean, you took a pretty serious break. You went and worked on Broadway for a while. But I want to ask, why did you take a break in the first place? Why not come out with another record, right away?
Well, I didn't really want to create the same exact type of music.
No.
I do have a passion for pop. I shamelessly so. I just love its melodies and hooks. I love the simplicity of sometimes getting to an emotion in such a kind of hit you on the nose
Yeah.
sort of way.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I didn't want to just make a pure pop album. I was really interested in the '80s. I was really interested in some alternative types of production, and I wanted to find a way to combine all of these flavors that I liked. And I knew that transition from what I was known for was going to take time for the public and for me to be able to discover exactly what that was. So I had a meeting with my label and management pretty soon after the Kiss tour wrapped up and just kind of presented my thoughts, said, listen, I think that I'm sick of hearing myself on the radio, so I imagine other people probably are too. I do have other ideas for what I want to do with my musical future, and I want you to put your faith in me that I'll come back when it's ready. And they did, and I am very lucky to have a team that wasn't about trying to mass produce things and was really more looking at the quality of it. Broadway came up as an opportunity that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
And it was a childhood dream of mine, and I couldn't say no. And it timed out really well with moving to New York, which turns out to be one of the most inspirational cities. I came back once I was done with that and said, I'm halfway done the album, take a listen. And they said, Carly, it's so '80s. And I said, yes, it is.
But the Broadway thing was very, very interesting because, I guess you wouldn't be surprised if you took a little break. Anyone who has that kind of rapid ascent that you had would definitely want to take a break. But most people would take a break. They'd lie on a beach in Antigua for, 3 years and relax or, get in trouble. But you didn't. You went right to work. I wonder, what did you get out of Broadway that you wouldn't have gotten out of just relaxing?
Well, when I say that music is my number one passion, I don't just mean the writing of it. The performing of it is equally there for me. And one of the first sort of attractions to stage was through community theater as a child. I was a little orphan Annie and Sandy and the Wiz and Sandy and Grease and Dorothy and the Wiz. And I actually went to a performing arts college right after high school that was all training for Broadway.
Which one? Let's give them a shout out.
The Canadian College of Performing Arts in Victoria.
There we go.
And I remember, I think 25 girls got in, 25 boys, and it was a year of just training in stage acting, singing, dancing, everything that I loved. I felt like it was a school made for me. And that was the same year that I was gifted a guitar and started writing, so I ended up changing courses. But it felt like a very full circle thing to come back later on in my career and actually get to pursue that dream as well. It was equally something I needed and wanted to do.
I want to talk about this new record, and you alluded to it when you said that you went in to talk to your team about what you wanted to do. But I'm curious as to actually how that conversation went down. So you walk in, you say, I want to make a new record, I want to make a new sound. What did you say? What was their reaction?
Well, part of the journey of actually discovering this album Emotion and what it turned out to be was writing a great deal of songs. So I didn't walk in there with a clear mission statement of this is how it's going to sound. I walked in there begging their faith in me that I would figure it out when it was ready. Scooter was there, the rest of my team at Schoolboy, and I basically presented my thoughts and they hit me back, and Scooter was fully supportive of it, and I think he felt the same way. And then I had a lot of people working hard with me to try different avenues. My A&R guy, John Eamon, who is a king, was setting me up with anyone who he thought would be a good pairing. And I found myself also reaching out to people who I just admired, artists that I loved, and writing solo style with my guitarist the way we do, and even in my own bedroom, just until I had a collection of over 200 songs to choose from. It was definitely a true classic tale of overworking.
But that's the stat that blows me away, is that you wrote at least over 200 200 songs. I mean, there are songwriters who have had great success who don't write 200 songs in a lifetime, and you have 200 songs that you just wrote for this one record. How are you able to narrow it down?
Well, it became a little bit easy to narrow down, at least for top 40, because I wanted there to be a cohesiveness to the album. I wanted it to feel like it was an album that you could play from beginning to end with a theme and sort of a purpose to it. So that helped. But you're right, at the top 40, it was quite a jarring thing to know how to narrow it down. I can remember calling my label actually and asking them if it would be really ridiculous if I had maybe gone away for 3 years and came back with like a 40-song deluxe. And they're like, yeah, that doesn't happen. So through the help of friends and family and listening parties and drop boxes full of my collections, people would kind of tell me what their favorites were, and I would listen. And it's hard when it's something that's close to you, but if you're really open to those passionate opinions, it can be more valuable than anything, I believe.
I can't imagine that. How beautiful that must be for things. I mean, typically these things happen in label offices where they'll go, no, these are the songs you're putting out. But you had family and friends help decide which songs you were going to put out.
Yeah, my brother actually
Really?
made he listened to all 40 songs from my Dropbox. He's in Canada still, so I had to send them to him, and he wrote a 3-sentence review on each song. My sister had a 5-star rating system, and everyone kind of had their favorites, and over dinner they would just kind of be passionately fighting it out, and I'd kind of sit back and listen. And I wanted there to be songs that were for everyone. There are more youthful ones. I Really Like You is probably the most lighthearted of the entire album, but I really wanted to go a little deeper and allow myself the maturity of my years in this album as well. And songs like All That needed to be there too. And I could see the people who picked their favorites sort of reflected that as well.
Carly, that song and a lot of the album, you're right, it has a certain feel of the 1980s. And I'm not entirely sure you were around for the music of the 1980s. What is it that draws you to that era musically?
I know, I get poked for that a lot. Well, I was born in 85, and you're right, I kind of grew up on a more of a... Actually, what my parents were listening to was very much folk influences. James Taylor, Joni Mitchell. I think Sinead O'Connor was like the closest thing I got to a pop vocalist in my youth.
Right.
And then the Spice Girls, ruined me in the best way possible. I was just addicted to that joy and that.
Which was your favorite?
I think I can remember actually going to HMV and saying to the man, I don't know their name yet, but I've heard this song. I wonder if you have the CD. It goes, tell me what you want, what you really want. And he goes, all right, just right this way, over here. I think I wasn't the first girl who came in that day.
Right.
But I think it actually was more of a question for me, what it was that I love so much about pop music. And I love that it's hooky. I like that you can kind of sing along to it, and I love the communal feeling of a great sing-along. But I really love when there's heart to it, too. And I think the 80s, that era, tapped into something with pop that, to me, it's pop at its finest. I saw Cyndi Lauper play in Osaka 2 years back,
Oh, yeah?
and I heard her singing Girls Just Want to Have Fun, and I felt like I would put the song out right now as is without changing production or a thing. And I thought there was something to that, and it just got me not exactly wanting to make a period piece, but wanting to bring in elements of that era and find a way to make it my own.
You weren't alone in this perfect conquest to make the perfect pop record. You collaborated with a lot of different people, everyone from Sia, the guy from the Cardigans, which is amazing.
Peter Svensson, yeah.
Did you end up singing the "Love Me" to him? Did you?
No, but actually before every session, I would bring out the little acoustic guitar and make him sing it to me.
And you have the guys from Vampire Weekend. Dev Hynes. So many different collaborators on this new record. But someone in your position kind of has your choice of a collaborator. So what are you looking for in someone to collaborate with on music?
Well, it really is important to me that I do feel like this is my project. And I think when you get in the room with some people where you, the stereotype is that you are a pop artist and not writer, then the session can kind of get away from you. So it took me a while to find kind of like-minded people who understood that this was something that I was driving, but that I do love collaborating. And I think that you can find the right sort of balance of trusting people and being challenged, and they bring strengths where you have weaknesses, and hopefully vice versa. And together you can kind of create something different. The key important qualities for me is that there's a friend, a friendship there. There's safety to have that ridiculous idea, and because it could just be great or it could be ridiculous, but to feel like it's safe to say it. And obviously people who who were getting the vision of this sort of 80s combination of like pop and alternative sort of sounds. And it took me a while, but once I found like-minded people, we were off to the races. The album came together pretty quickly after that.
You're an incredibly confident person, and you're working, but you're still, and you've had all the success, but you are working with people who have done incredible things, for generations in their career. Were you ever intimidated walking into these songwriting sessions with these people?
I think I could feel myself right off the back of Call Me Maybe and Kiss, feeling almost a desire to sort of prove myself
Yeah.
in a non-helpful way. I actually acknowledged it and had to like give myself a bit of a talking to, because
Well,
I'd get in the room with somebody and I would just be wanting to show them all of my ideas as quickly as possible. And I think it's important that you don't bring your ego into that spot. You got to go in there, confidently what you can do, and be confident that they're there to help. And together, if you kind of have that piece of your own mind that you're not there to kind of show off, you're there to kind of make the best song possible, then you can listen sometimes when it's just as vital. I learned that, at least.
how did you manage to fight off? I mean, I can only imagine if you have a song like Call Me Maybe, you want to show that you're more than just one song, that you're more than just this particular brand of pop music. How do you overcome that kind of, I don't want to say insecurity, but maybe insecurity? How do you overcome that kind of that need?
Well, it wasn't so much that I felt like I only had Call Me Maybe in me. I just felt like that was sort of
Sure,
how
sure.
I was identified. And I think that even people in my life really helped sort of show the separation of those two sort of things. It's one thing to be perceived as something. It's another thing to actually perceive yourself that way. My guitarist Tavish Crow told me, you can look at this as pressure. You can look at this as a moment to prove yourself as something more, or you could look at this as an opportunity to show what I know and what you already know, which is that you've got more to you than this song, and it's a gift. You have a stage now. Let's show it. And I felt like that was such a beautiful way of looking at it. So anytime my mind would kind of go to a darker spot of really being like, hungry to prove something, I would steer it back to happy to show something.
There is that tendency, though, when artists go in with producers, and producers have never had such a big name as they do right now. Maybe George Martin with the Beatles, maybe, but everyone knows the producers. Max Martin made this record as well as did this person. How did you make sure that Carly-Rae Jepsen still shone through on these songs, even though you were working with these very trademark producers?
Well, I think that I had a whole bunch of ideas already on the table. Kind of, I showed up in sessions kind of with sometimes like pretty already achieved songs, and I had a direction. I knew what I wanted to do with them. And other times it was a fresh collaboration off the floor, but that usually began after confidence was built in the relationship and we're ready to kind of try something new together. But I think once I actually was in the room with people long enough to build that friendship, there was all that sort of desire to prove anything melted away, because I felt like we were all aware of what everyone was capable of and just excited to create something new together.
You can really hear that excitement on the record. Carly, it's crazy. You've kind of had two careers. One is you blow up with this, well, not including Canadian Idol, but one is you blow up with this major mainstream gigantic success that most, virtually all performers, including some of the biggest artists on earth, would still pray for in the nighttime to have a song that big. And then you have this other career where you release a very patient, a very well thought out, well crafted, universally acclaimed indie pop record in some ways. I'm interested to hear. I know I've heard rumors that you have an indie rock record in you there somewhere. I'm interested. Looking at you, I'm thinking there could be polka in there somewhere. There could be clog dancing. What does the next chapter of Carly-Rae Jepsen look like? You said you like pop music and various styles of music. What's next?
I think that's the wonderful mystery of it. Even when I began the writing of this project, I did have a natural rebellion, I think probably because of Call Me Maybe, to almost make something indie folk with like live drums. And it wasn't exactly what I wanted either, but it was a really important thing for me to kind of do and almost get out of my system. And I did have a desire to pop, and I kind of went back and was doing really mainstream stuff that didn't feel right for me either. And that's where I landed in this 80s world that was totally attractive to me. And I felt like I finally found my niche. what I'll do next is kind of part of the journey. I think I write until I land on it. Tavish Crow and I, one of my greatest writing partners, who's my guitarist as well on the road, we find spare hours even now with nothing to turn in and nothing due to write in hotel rooms because we love it and we can't not do it. And that's led us to some like very understated discos, and that's led us to some little folk experiments, and that's led us back to pop again too. So all I can say is that's a mystery for now.
I don't know if it was just in Canada, but when I Really, Really Like You came, I think I'm missing a really there, but I Really, Really Like You came out, I saw on Facebook people just rooting for you, saying that, that Carly-Rae had Call Me Maybe, and Canada was so proud of you that when you released I Really Like You, which was destined to be as big as Call Me Maybe, it was the smash breakout pop single. We all knew you had it in you, and you did put it out. Did you feel that support of your fans behind you? Did you feel not just the expectations, but did you feel like you had really given your audience something that they had really wanted from you?
Yeah, I don't think I can express in words the gratitude I feel to Canada and to the world for allowing me this time off to come back and to still feel like even though I sort of shadowed away that I'm still embraced and that music is still being listened to and heard. It was unexpected to me, and it's a really beautiful surprise.
We're going to go out on a song, and I know these songs are like your youngsters. They're like your babies.
They are my
every
babies.
single one of them,
Yeah.
or so they say. But we are going to play one of them. Maybe instead of asking what's your favorite on the record, I'm going to ask what's your favorite right now off the record. What's your favorite song to perform right now?
Right now, there's a song called Warm Blood. That's probably my favorite.
Why is that?
It's a song I did with Rostam from Vampire Weekend and actually two fellow Canadians, Tino and Joe here. And it's all about intimacy. And whenever we do it live in the show, it always feels like a moment where I just get to kind of stop and sort of breathe with the audience. That sounds really weird, but it's that intimate.
Well, yeah, there has to be an intimacy in the show, and that intimacy that you have with your fans is almost definitely a part of the reason you connect with them.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you so much for coming in
Thank
today,
you so
Carly.
much.